Now to make modifications to your building block, like if you want to update it, maybe you don't want to include the URL, or you want to include something else, like we left out the paragraph above and the two below. Go ahead and make your changes and then select what you'd like to include in the update, and then come back up here on the Insert tab, go to the text group, and click on Quick Parts, and then go ahead and click on Save Selection to Quick Part Gallery. And you'll have to remember the name that you want to overwrite or replace it with to update that building block. And I remember it, it's that. And the gallery's Quick Parts. Now if I choose another gallery, it won't overwrite what's in the Quick Parts gallery, but create or add what we have here and put it over into, well, another gallery. But let's go ahead and leave it as Quick Parts just for this example. And essential oils is a category, and then the description, well, we'll have to type it in again, but I won't do that. Let's just go ahead and click Okie dokie. And it says, do you want to redefine the building block entry? In other words, overwrite it, update it with what you have here. And I'll say no. Now if I go ahead and I choose another gallery, and I say not the Quick Parts, let me just go ahead and let's do the text boxes, or better yet the tables. That's going to be kind of kooky. So when I click on tables, I'll have, well, my building block and the tables there. And the category, when you click on it, it doesn't have essential oils because that's proprietary to the gallery of Quick Parts. And so if I go back to Quick Parts, click on it, because we created the category in that gallery, well, there it is. So if I go ahead and choose tables, and I want to be able to have its own category within the tables or just appear as part of the built-in. So when you click on tables, like any other gallery, if there's built-in, it will be a part of the built-in, unless you want to say, no, it's not built-in, it's my own. It's, well, let's go ahead and create a new category and call it my own spiffy category. And click Okie dokie, type in the description. In any case, go ahead and click Okie dokie, and then now we got two building blocks. We have one in the Quick Parts, it's still there. And then over here in the tables, click on Table, and then go down to Quick Tables. And let's go ahead and scroll down until we can find it. Oh, there it is at the very bottom in its own spiffy category. Fabulous. You can also right-click on it to get additional options, and it's the same options whether it's in the Tables gallery or, let me come up here, click on Quick Parts and right-click. You see you get the same shortcut menu there. You can insert it at current document position, insert it at page header, footer. In any case, you get quite a few options there. And you can edit the properties. Now, we learned how to overwrite and replace it with whatever we selected here by saving the selection. What if you don't want to update it as far as that goes, but maybe you want to go ahead and edit the properties and say, okay, you're no longer going to be this name, or you want to change it from the Quick Parts gallery. But then if I change it from the Quick Parts gallery, like let's do text boxes, and okay, we'll leave it as built-in, and click Okie dokie. Do you want to redefine it? Yes. So is it up here in the Quick Parts gallery? No, because we redefined it and said you should be in the text box. And well, there's the built-in categories, so it will be here somewhere sorted alphabetically. There you go. And you can right-click on that, and you get the shortcut menu for the text boxes, where you can insert at current document position, but well, not the same shortcut menu as we did when we right-clicked on it in the Tables gallery or in the Quick Parts gallery. But you can go back to edit the properties and, well, make your changes. Click Cancel. Or you can go ahead and click on it again, scroll down, and if you're like, you know what, I don't want it at all, right-click on it and go to Organize and Delete, and it opens up the Building Blocks Organizer. Now, if you're like, let me close out, I don't remember what gallery it's in, the text box, the table, I just want to clean things up. Well, instead of clicking on the text box and doing a search and destroy mission and trying to find it or the table, you can go ahead and in the text group, click on the Quick Parts and go down to the Building Blocks Organizer. It opens up the same window. The only thing you have to do now, instead of it being selected by default when you choose it from the actual, well, text box gallery or the table gallery, because it'll be selected, then you can go ahead and hit delete. But because we came here without right-clicking on that selection from one of those galleries, we have to go ahead and do a search by, well, we can sort it by name. If you know the gallery that it's in, you can go ahead and search it that way and scroll down to find the text boxes. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh, and there we go. So the text boxes at the very bottom there. So in any case, Once you have it there, you can go ahead and delete it or edit the properties. Now you can, sort it by gallery if you remember the gallery, but maybe you're having problems with that. The category. Well, we have the category essential oils, so you can click on that to sort it alphabetically, ascending or descending, and then go ahead and scroll through that till you find it. Oh, well, I converted this one over to Spiffy, so there you go. I'm getting lost. The best for me is to go ahead and click Sort by Name. We can go ahead and click and drag until we can find the 2 lemon essential oils right there. One's the built-in category. That's right, now my memory's kicking back in. We changed it to built-in, and then that one's Spiffy. So you got a few options to go ahead and find it. If you don't want to go to the gallery itself and right-click on it, where it brings it right up and selected by default, for you to just go ahead and click on Delete. Yes. And then we've got the other one, and we can go ahead and delete it with it selected right there. Or again, close out. Text box, click and drag, and right-click there to organize and delete, and automatically has it selected for you when you do it from the gallery, as I mentioned. And we can go ahead and insert it or delete it. And it's gone. Close out. Text box, sorted alphabetically because it's in the built-in category. And after the I's, there's no L's for lemon essential oil. It's toast. Coming off the past couple of training videos, the building blocks, which were found up here on the Insert tab in the text group under the Quick Parts, and it's right there. What I want to cover now are the other 3, the Field, Document Property, and AutoText. First of all, AutoText is used to add sentences or paragraphs in your document after you type in the first 4 characters of the saved AutoText sentence or paragraph. So how do you save a sentence or a paragraph to the AutoText? Could be even just a few words, doesn't have to be an entire sentence. Well, first of all, you have to type it in. So let me go ahead and click down below, and I'll do my company's name here because, every time I close a letter, I want to type in my company's name. Instead of typing it completely out, I can go ahead and use the AutoText feature that after I type in the first 4 letters, it'll give me the option to go ahead and accept that and have it insert the rest of it for me. So when you type in whatever you want to have as AutoText, go ahead and click and drag to select it, or since the cursor's at the end, I'll hold down the Shift key and hit the Home key. It selects everything from the end of it to the beginning, and then come up here on the Insert tab, go to the text group, Quick Parts, to AutoText, and Save Selection to AutoText Gallery. Now I could come down here and click on Save Selection to Quick Parts Gallery. They both bring up the same building block window. So for example, AutoText to AutoText Gallery, we're creating a building block. Except it's got to be AutoText if we want to use the AutoText feature and for it to also appear in the AutoText Gallery. So close out. If I came back up here and said, I'll just go ahead and save selection to Quick Parts Gallery, that's fine. But we got to change the gallery from Quick Parts to AutoText for the feature to work and to also be saved in the AutoText Gallery. So the name of it is Dreamforce. And we can give it a description down below saying it's company name. And everything that we talked about when we learned about building blocks, the category, save in options, you can go ahead and watch that training video. I don't want to repeat that, except to emphasize that it has to be in the AutoText Gallery if you want to use the AutoText feature. So let's go ahead and click Okie dokie, and it's there. Let me click off, hit enter a couple of times. Come back up here to the text group, click on Quick Parts to AutoText, and it's in the gallery. And you can see there's the title when I hover over it and the description. So I can right click on it and get all the different options that we talked about in the building blocks. They're also available here. That you can edit the properties, make your changes if you want. Click Cancel. Let's do that again. AutoText. Right click, and also to organize and even delete the AutoText. You click on that. Has it selected. Of course, you can edit it and change the name or the description. Let's click Cancel. Even delete it, which I don't want to do. We'll say no. Close out. Having said that, to go ahead and use the AutoText feature, besides coming up here and clicking on the AutoText and clicking on Insert, which of course will insert it. Let me hit Enter a couple of times. You can also type in the first 4 letters of that AutoText, like DREA There you go, first four. And you can see that little pop-up. That's the AutoText feature saying, look, you can go ahead and keep typing, but hey, if this is what you're typing, Dreamforce, LLC, then just hit enter. Wondrous. So go ahead, type an entire paragraph. Just know that the first four letters of that paragraph, when you type it in, is what's going to pull it up. Now here's something to consider. You can go back, as we talked about, and click on it to AutoText and right-click to edit the properties. And how does it know which first four letters to type? Well, it's looking at the name here. So if I go ahead and delete that and type in comp for a company, well, it has to have at least four letters in the name, because if it doesn't, and I just type in 3 to save it in the AutoText gallery, click Okie dokie. Are you sure you want to redefine it? Say yes. And when I type in COMP, it's not going to pull up because it needs at least four letters to define it. Let me go ahead and hit undo. If I type in DREA, see, it's not even pulling up because it's going off the name. So let's go ahead and hit undo. Go back to it. Quick Parts, AutoText, to right-click, to edit. And let's do COMP, so it's got to have at least four letters in the name. Click Okie dokie. Redefine, yes. So when I type in COMP, there you go. That's the name for the AutoText, and that's the AutoText that's going to pull up for that name. You can see in the pop-up, just hit enter, and you notice I didn't even have to type it in uppercase. Well, for the first letter, uppercase C, it can be even lowercase, so it's not case sensitive. In any case, hit enter, and there you go. Now you're probably wondering, like I am, well, what's the difference between doing it this way and using autocorrect? Well, autocorrect, you don't have a choice. If you use autocorrect and you type in the first couple letters, you hit the space bar, automatically converts it. Where with AutoText, if you type in the first four letters, you get the option whether or not you want to continue by hitting enter. If you're typing in something else that begins with DREA, or in this case we changed it to COMP, like composition and not company, autocorrect would force you to accept it after you hit the space bar, where AutoText would be like, you can go ahead and hit enter. If not, just keep typing. Okay, Control A, hit the delete key to get rid of all that. Let's come back up here, click on Quick Parts, AutoText, right-click, Organize and Delete. With it selected, let's go ahead and delete it. Say yes, close out. Quick Parts, AutoText, it's not there. Okay, next is the document property. Now we haven't talked about this, it's in a later training video, so you may want to go and jump ahead to watch document properties. But what it's doing is that the document has its properties or information about the document that's not on the front stage. It's all backstage, like who authored the document, something more simplistic like the title of your document as opposed to the file name, the subject about the document, the manager, company's information, company name. Like I said, those are all properties of the document, something that, well, for me, I wouldn't want to type all that information on the front page because that's something that's maybe typically not something that you want up front on your pages. So in any case, you can go backstage. Let me click off, click on the File tab, Info selected by default, and there you go, there's the properties. And here's some of the things that we talked about, like the title of the document, the author, there I am. You can also scroll down and show all properties, and it shows more properties. And if you want to see even more than that, and like I said, we'll cover this in more depth in a later training video, click on Properties and go to Advanced Properties, and you got 5 tabs. On the Summary tab, well, there you go. You go ahead and type in the title of your document. It's, in any case, the subject, the manager, could be me. And so if you want to go ahead and pull those fields from the Properties area, backstage, and then go ahead and click Okie dokie, and click back, and then come back up here, Quick Parts, Document Properties. So if I choose Author, it pulls in the dynamic field for the field properties, the author. So any changes I make in here or backstage, it'll automatically update it. That's why it's got its own little special box, because if it didn't, then any changes that I made backstage, it wouldn't update it here, and that wouldn't be cool. Now the box will disappear if you click on the outside of it, so that way it's, not annoying you or the reader when they're reading it. But when you click inside of it, well, there you go, it's tagged. So if I come in here and I type in an extra S and I go backstage, File, come down here, Click on Properties, go to Advanced Properties. There you go, there's the author with the extra S, and if I delete it backstage and get rid of the S and click Okie dokie and then click back, it updates it there. So it's dynamic. What you do in one updates the other. One of the reasons why you may want to use this is that when you create your document, maybe it's a boiler template, that it's generic. You go ahead and you send it off to companies and you got some text in there. Then they can go ahead, their author that wants to tweak it, goes backstage, updates it. And so at the end, it'll have automatically, if you put the field down below, pull in their name from backstage, also the title of that boiler template, do some simple merging updates from what you have available backstage in the properties that you can bring upstage or to the front from the quick parts. So you can see that, well, you don't get any extra options till we click outside of it. You can also right click on it and remove the content control, and what that does is that, well, now it's no longer pulling from the backstage, it's its own text. So you can see that there's no box. What I do here won't update the backstage. Let's go ahead and delete that, and then click on Quick Parts, and then finally the field. Click on that. And you got all the different categories for inserting different types of fields, like even include the field for the author. If you want it to be an uppercase, lowercase, let's just do all uppercase, and click Okie dokie. And it inserts the author's name. Well, we could have done that from the document properties, but if you do it as a field, you get a few more options, the least of which is, hey, we can do it all in uppercase. Let me go ahead and hit undo and do one more. Click on it. Let's do field again. And this time, instead of seeing all, let's look at date and time and choose date. And then we get the date formats over to the right-hand side. Let's do date with time. And you can see the date formats. M is for month, D is for day, Y is for year. And you can go ahead and tweak it and say, you know what, I don't want the 4 numbers or the 4 letters representing the 4 numbers for the entire year. Let's just limit that to the last 2 digits of the year, 2017, by deleting 2 of the 4 Y's for year. Click Okie dokie, and there you go. It just has the 2 here and not 2017. And if you go ahead and right click on it, you can also update the field. Wow, it went from 18 seconds to 28. Man, am I yammering. That's a long time. In any case, you can, as you can see, right click to update it. You can also toggle to look at the field codes. And you can see the code. It's merging the information over into the box. And then you can go ahead and right click to toggle the fields, or Alt F9 will work. Alt F9 again. There we go. Toggles back. And then we can right click on it. We can edit the field if we want to add those Y's back. Why? Because we want 2017 to appear, not just 17. Then to go ahead and get rid of it, you can click on it, and then you can click on that little 3 ellipsis button because you want to be able to select the entire box, so you can hit the delete key, because if you don't click on it and the cursor is still flashing, like if you click on the tab here, you see how the cursor is still flashing? When you hit the delete key, it's not going to do anything. So come back in here and make sure that you actually hit the 3 little pigs, hit the delete key, and then you can get rid of it. Either that or hit undo. The paragraph control feature is used to control the paragraphs as they bridge the gap in between 2 pages. For example, at the bottom of my first page, I have the first line of my paragraph, and obviously the rest of the paragraph can't squeeze in at the bottom of the first page, so it spills over to the top of the next. Okay, now is this a paragraph that I'm looking at, or is it a paragraph that Word sees as a paragraph? Well, to find out, come up here, as we talked about in earlier training videos, go to the Home tab to the Paragraph group, turn on the codes, and at the end of the first line, do you see a paragraph marker? No. Next line, no, just at the end. So all the lines above that is tied to this paragraph right here, that paragraph marker, until it goes to the next one. So if you don't want to use the paragraph control feature, which we'll talk about in just a minute, you could go ahead and click in front of the line that's by itself at the bottom of the first page and hit enter, and it's got it all together. And why would you want to do that? Well, because when I undo that, if I print this off and hand it off to somebody and they read the bottom line and then they flip to the next page and they start reading smallest market in the radio, and they're like, now who are we talking about? Well, they have to go back to the bottom of the first page. Oh, it's Glenn. Then they can go back and read it and go, well, what was that I read on the other page? And there's comprehension issues when you get paragraphs split like that, when there's not enough of the paragraph to give you something to go off of. Better yet, if you can keep it together entirely, then that's the way you want to go. But when I hit enter, the problem that you run into is that you got double spacing, which may not be a problem until you either add or delete text above those paragraphs, those two empty ones. Because if I go ahead and select that paragraph and delete it, now I have double spacing in between a paragraph as opposed to in between a title and a paragraph. And as you see, all the other paragraphs have just single spacing or one paragraph marker. And so if I go ahead and hit undo, or I go the other way, I type in some text and hit enter, 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 then down at the top of the next page, well, you see how it gets pushed down and it's not consistent with a single paragraph marker in between the paragraphs. So that's kind of messy. Let's go ahead and hit undo a couple of times. And what we can do instead is use the paragraph control feature, or find out what that's about and see if it'll work for you, as opposed to just hitting enter and putting the first line to the top of the next page. So to bring up the paragraph controls, you can do it one of a couple of ways. First off, you want to go ahead and click anywhere within the paragraph that you want to control. And it can be the first line in the paragraph at the bottom of the first page, or anywhere in the paragraph at the top of the next page, because it's seeing it all as one paragraph here. And then come up here on the Home tab to the paragraph group and click on its expandable dialog box button. And if it doesn't take you right to the line and page break tab, which, well, I've been working in this, so it takes me right to it. Let me click on the indents and spacing, then go to the line and page breaks tab. And we're going to be covering these four options here, or features for pagination. Now you can bring up the paragraph window that way, or, let me close out, a lot faster is to go ahead and right-click anywhere within the paragraph, and in the shortcut menu, click on Paragraph, brings up the same window, and make sure you're on the Line and Page Breaks tab. And the first one we'll talk about in the four is widow and orphan. An orphan is the first line of a paragraph by itself at the bottom of a page. And you can see that that's by itself at the bottom of a page, as opposed to a widow, which is the reverse, where if we had all these lines except for the last line at the bottom of the previous page, and we just had the top of this page, a single line remaining of the paragraph, or to be precise by definition, the last line of a paragraph by itself at the top. So the young one, the orphan, by himself comes before, and the widow, the older one, is the last line at the top of the next page by itself. And so either or, if you got a paragraph that's a widow or an orphan, just check the box and it will take a look at it and go, well, we can't bring the lines in the remainder of the paragraph here up here because, well, we got no more room. With the footer here, the margin, and one paragraph, that's not going to work. So when I check the box and click Okie dokie, it takes that line, the orphan, and brings them home with the rest of the fam. Oh, that's nice. And then you can see you just got one paragraph marker here and not double spaced. So let's go ahead and undo that. And instead, let me delete these lines here so we can see down below that now we have a widow, which is the last line of a paragraph by itself at the top of a page. And so if I right click on the last line, or just anywhere within that paragraph, even at the bottom of the next page, because all these lines are together in the same paragraph, just right click, go to paragraph, and check the same box. Now it can't take the last line and push it up here. So what it's going to do is, so the widow's not by itself, when I click Okie dokie, is just bring a line from the paragraph here and add it down below. So no longer by himself, we have an extra line. Well, now that you have another line with it, you get a little bit more to work with when you want to remember what's been talked about without flipping back to the bottom of the first page or the previous page. And then of course you can go ahead and right click anywhere on the paragraph, go to paragraph, uncheck it, click Okie dokie, and it goes back to the default here. You go ahead and hit undo several times so we're back to where we started. And let's go to the next one where we want to keep one paragraph with the next. So we've got a title here, What is Glenn? And then we've got the paragraph below it. And so if you want to keep the paragraph above it with the next paragraph, if it splits across a page, well, let me go ahead and show you. Let's click up here, hit enter, 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 enter. And well, let's pretend that's text. In any case, you see how it splits. And when you go to the top of the next page, you're like, I forgot what section I'm in or what this part of the document's about. You'd have to go back to the bottom of the next page and go, oh, what is Glenn? Well, instead, you can actually keep this paragraph with the next paragraph by right-clicking on that paragraph, going down to Paragraph, and say that you want to keep with the next paragraph, and click Okie dokie, and there you go. So whenever it wants to split between the two paragraphs or break across a page, it will always keep that with the next paragraph. Oh, that's wondrous. Let's go ahead and hit undo several times. Next, if you just want to keep a line with the next line, so without widow and orphan, you can of course go ahead and right click on that line. You go to Paragraph, and we're talking just about lines. So if you want to keep this line together with the next, the line that I right clicked on, well, go ahead and check it, click Okie dokie, and there you go. Now notice with my codes on, you get this little square, looks like a bullet. Well, it lets you know that something's going on. It's either keeping it with the next paragraph or keeping lines together. And so if you come up here and turn off the codes, it's not there, so it's not a bullet. It's just a code to let you know about some of the options that you chose, either keep with next paragraph or keep lines together. Let's go ahead and turn it back on. And let's undo that. And then last but not least, if you want your sections to always start at the top of a page, you can of course go ahead and right click on the section title, go down to Paragraph, and say you want to break before that paragraph. Click Okie dokie, and there you go. So it doesn't matter where it's at, it's always going to break on its own page, and of course there's the code for it. I mean, it's the same code as keep lines with next. It's just to let you know that a code's been attached to it, a paragraph code. And if you want to know what code that is, go ahead and right click on that paragraph where the code's at, to Paragraph, and oh, that's what it is. Page break before that paragraph. Always page break before that paragraph. You can uncheck that, click Okie dokie, and back to where we started. The two types of breaks I want to go over are page and section breaks. Now a page break, as you recall, is just that. It's a break between pages, as you can see right there. And a section break is a way to section off or isolate a part of your document for layout control purposes. So for example, if I want to convert the bulleted list here at the bottom of page 2 into 2 columns, well, if I go ahead and do it now, it's going to apply that to the entire document. So all the text above and below it will be in 2 columns. But if I just want to apply it to this section, section, then go ahead and put a section break above it and a section break below it. So when I apply the 2-column format to the single column here, it can't go above the break or below it. Pretty fancy, not only for columns, but, well, let's come up here and click on the Layout tab, but also for margins, orientation, size, and others. But we'll keep it simple and stick to these items here. And so as a quick review, when you come up here and click on breaks, you've got your page breaks and section breaks. And for the page break, well, wherever the cursor's at, it's going to mark the point at which one page ends, or that page that the cursor's flashing on, and the next page begins. So if I click off and I put my cursor here, and I'm like, okay, I want everything from that point on down to be onto the next page, I could hit enter, 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 but as you recall in earlier training videos, when you add a bunch of extra coding that you could have bypassed by using a shortcut, in this case inserting a page break, when it comes to more advanced features, it gets hard to work with the document, let alone use the advanced features. In any case, let's go ahead and hit undo, and you can create a break, click on break, and we'll do page. And it takes everything from that point down where the cursor's at, pushes over to the next page, the top of it. Hit undo, and the shortcut keys for page break are Control Enter, same thing, hit undo, and then now for breaks. Now in the section breaks we got 4 types. I'll just cover the first 2 because oddly enough, the last 2, the even page and odd page, we covered in the header and footer training video, albeit somewhat indirectly. But when you watch that training video, you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about, and then just marry the idea of what you see in there for the different odd and even pages, or headers and footers, with what we're going to cover in here, and it should be crystal clear. But even if not, I want to keep it simple here and not get too far ahead. So with our section breaks, you can see the 2 different types. You've got the continuous, which is what I was talking about. If there's a part of a page within your document that you want from that point on down to be one type of format or layout change, like, insert a column here. So from that point down, it's going to be 2 columns, and it won't go from that point where the orange triangle is at. I don't know if you can see it. Up above the blue lines is a separate section. So when you insert a section break, you'll have 2 sections because you have the section above it and then you have a section below it. And it doesn't matter how many pages you have within your document. So if we have a total of 100 pages, and let's say that I inserted a continuous break towards the top, like you see here at page 25. Well, from about that point, the orange on page 25 all the way down to page 100 is 1 section. So if I break it there and I click anywhere within that section, meaning like, well, within the orange part as it's showing you here on page 25 or page 26, 27, it doesn't matter because from just a little above the midpoint on page 25 down to page 100 is 1 section. So it doesn't matter what page, it looks at it as 1 section. So I can click on page 30 and then come up here and say you're going to be 2 columns. When I do that, it quickly goes throughout the document and it says everything's going to be in 2 columns except when I get to towards the top of page 25 and I notice the break. I can't go beyond the break, so everything from the top of page 25 up to page 1 is going to be left alone. And so having said that, up here, the next page section break, what it does is it not only inserts a new page, just like the page break feature here, but when it inserts a new page, at the top of that new page, it puts in a continuous break, one of these guys here, a section break there, which, you could go ahead and just click next page, go to the top of the next page, and then insert a continuous break up at the top. But why go through all that when you get the best of both worlds, a new page, and at the top of that, sectioned off with the next page break? So let's go ahead and put this to the test. Let me go ahead and click off over here and say, okay, I've got my bullets here, and I'd like all my bullets to be in 2 columns. I don't want the text below it, the paragraph, to be in 2 columns, or the text above it. So when I click anywhere within the document, because I don't have any section breaks right now, and by the way, how do you know if there are any section breaks within your document? Well, wait for it and I'll show you. Let's go ahead and see what happens when I don't have any part of my document sectioned off with the section break. So if I come up here on the Layout tab and I click on Columns and I want 2, notice the default is 1. That's for all new documents. But when I choose 2, ooh-wee, look at all that. It took the entire document and put it into 2 columns, page 1 and page 2. Well, I don't want that. Undo, undo. And there we go. So we want to say, okay, look, let me put the cursor there. From this point up above, I don't want you to be touched when I go ahead and apply the 2-column format. So I'll insert a section break and section that part from that point up above off from the rest down below. So I can come up here, click on breaks, and go down to continuous. Because I'm not creating a new page with the section, let's just do continuous. And it's inserted. How do you know? Well, come up here, click on the Home tab, go to the paragraph group, and turn on the codes. And there it is right there, fuzzy little dots. Well, that's not much of a code, is it? Well, you can't see all of it, but if I go ahead and click and drag and select the text and delete it, there you go. Now it opens it up and it says, hey, this is a section break and it's continuous. Let me go ahead and hit undo. And also, let me click before the paragraph, type in some text here. You see, wow, it disappeared. So if it's that tight with your section break and you're like, okay, did I insert a section at all? A couple of other ways you can find out if there's a section within your document is, well, come down below on the status bar and you can see I've got section, well, let me get out of the way, section 1. So if I go ahead and click down below here, what section am I in now? Section 2. So if I click up above here, I'm in section 1. Well, where is that section break? Like I said, with the codes on, it's not showing it to me, so you may want to go ahead and do a little bit of deductive reasoning and go, okay, it's probably right here next to the paragraph marker. And if you don't have the section being displayed down below in the status bar, right-click anywhere on the status bar and check Section. Let me click off, and I'm going to get rid of these guys right here because I don't want the extra gobbledygook. Another way you can go about doing this is you can hit the F5 key on the keyboard and it opens up the Find and Replace window to the Go To tab. You can go to a section. So if you want to go ahead and type in 2, and you can see I'm in section 1, and hit enter, it takes me, let me close out, to the top of section 2. Hit F5, and then, well, selected there by default. It remembers where I was at. So I can just come in here, type in 1, hit enter, takes me to the top of section 1, which is page 1. But if I had more pages before that section break, like 10, it would take me to, well, the first page, the top of those 10 pages, the top of that section. So let's go ahead and scroll down. And now we can go ahead and click below that section break over in here. And you can validate that. I'm in section 2. Whew. And then come up here, click on Layout, go to Page Setup, click on Columns, do 2, and we're good. There we go. We've got 2 columns, and it didn't affect anything above it, did it? Sweet. And then we can scroll down and go, everything's just rosy. Oh my, look at that. That's not supposed to be in 2 columns. It's supposed to be its own column. So how in the fudge do I do that? Well, I got to section it off now, don't I? So I can go ahead and click in that paragraph and click on Breaks and say we want a continuous one, and it inserts it. Kind of jumped around, didn't it? And when I scroll up, there you can see it. So at the end of that paragraph, but before this one, we've got our section break. And so let me ask you right now, quick, without looking at the status bar down below, how many sections do I have? I inserted 2 section breaks. So on either side of a section break is counted as 1. And then when you go to the other side, it's counted as 2. And then when you go to the other side of the second section break, it's 3. As you can see down below, 3 sections. I'm in the 3rd section. And so being in the 3rd section, if I'm like, okay, I don't want that to be 2 columns, then come up here, click on columns and say 1. Oh, see that? It didn't go above the break here to convert everything from that point to the next point into a single column. So I roped it off, isolated it, sectioned off this part of my document, bottom of page 1, top of page 2, so they can be formatted into 2 columns, not affect the rest of the document on either side of those section breaks. Let's go ahead and scroll back up, and my columns aren't level. There's a couple ways we can go about getting them level. One way is to go ahead and delete the paragraph code. Now they're level, except they're right up snug against the paragraph above it. What we can do is right-click in the paragraph above it, go down to Paragraph, and on the Indents and Spacing tab, let's have some spacing after that paragraph, maybe 12 point, click okie dokie, and that looks good. Or hit undo a couple of times. You can actually click at the end of the first column, or what appears to be the first column. And what I mean by that is that these columns are all tied together. So when I hit enter and type in some more text, hit enter, 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 you see how it pushes over into the next column. So it's one continuous flow of thought, as it were. They're all essential oils, and you can go ahead and balance it that way. Or, speaking of changing thoughts, let's go ahead and hit undo a couple of times to go back to here. That, like, let's say I want to be able to break this up and say these 2 are my top selling essential oils, and I could type in a title that says the top ones, these are the medium ones, then on the next page, lower, and so on. In any case, I don't want to mix my top essential oils if I add a few more in that column to have a continuous flow over into the next one. But when it continues over, the moment it goes over, it takes whatever's there and gets it out of the way, because I don't want my top selling mixed with my mediocres. And so if you have 2 separate thoughts and you want those to be displayed in your columns, to keep them separate, let's do a column break. So wherever the cursor's at, that's where the break's going to be inserted. Come up here on the Layout tab, Page Setup, click on Breaks, and it's a page break, or in that section, that is, column. And you can see that in the picture, when you insert a break there, breaks it, and after the break, it will begin the next column, or the definition. It indicates that the text following the column break will begin in the next column. So anything after it pushes it over into its own column. And so let's go ahead and click on it. And there you go, there's the column break. And if you want to get rid of it, just click before it, hit the delete key, and we're back. But I'm going to go ahead and hit undo. And so anything following that will begin in the next column. So, well, anything after that? No, because it's in the next column. So if I go ahead and hit enter and type in some text and add some more up, you see the moment that that needs more room, and it pushes over into that next column. Remember the definition, anything following the column break, or the code as you see it here, will begin in the next column. So it begins in the next column. There you go. So that way when I type in additional essential oils, my top selling ones, it doesn't have the others below it continuing with the false thought that those oils are selling at the same rate as these ones, my top selling. Cool. Let's go ahead and hit undo and do that a couple of times. And I can go ahead and separate that one by clicking after that and doing a break to column. And then, okay, we got that. Let's come down below here. Break to column. And there we go. Pretty cool. Then I can go ahead and type in my titles. This is the bottom 50%. That's the bottom 25, top 75, and that's our best selling. And, just type in there, best. Shift home, make it big, bold, and beautiful, and put an underline. Well, okay, the codes are getting in the way. You can click on the Home tab, turn off the codes, but there you go. Now you have some additional options when it comes to your columns. And let me go ahead and hit undo. We'll just get rid of that so we just have it all uniformed. And that's up here on the Layout tab. Go to the Page Setup group, and there you go, Columns. Click on it, and there's the two. But if you want more options, click on More Columns, and there you go. So you can choose one of the presets or tweak your preset. Well, you can also say, oh, well, I want 3. Automatically jumps to 3, but let's go back to 2. And then down below the width and spacing, there's a preview of it, so you can watch that as we tweak this over here. So we have a total of 2 columns, right? The reason why it doesn't allow us to change the second column is because this guy's checked. It wants to keep the columns the same width. But if I don't want them the same width, I can uncheck that, and then I get the option to tweak that one and, make it a little bit less, as you can see in the preview here. And then the spacing becomes great between the first and the second columns, so I can go ahead and decrease that, in which case that encroaches more. Well, you can go ahead and play with that, then click Okie dokie, and there you go. And if that doesn't work for you, well, of course, you can go ahead and either undo that or click on Columns and go back to More Columns and make some additional changes. Let's go back to equal column width. And I think it was 3 inches. Let's go to 3 and ½ inch spacing in between the 2 columns. And there you go. You can apply it to this section. And what section are we in? Well, the section breaks here. So above that is section 1. First section break, that's section 2. And then, well, down below on page 2, second section break, page 3. So you can see down below we're in section 2. Or you can just go ahead and say from this point forward, or the whole document. Well, we'll just keep it simple, and then in this section only. And you can even put a line in between. Check that, and a line will be between the columns. Click Okie dokie, see if you like that. And well, it goes all the way to the top of the column. And so if you want to go ahead and rearrange your layout here so that is also at the top, so it's even with the line in between. It's your flavor. Go for it. And then finally, if you want to be able to mess with your columns here and not have to use the columns menu, you do get your options up here on the horizontal ruler, like your indents for your first line, your hanging indent, your left indent. Just click and drag and do your thing, as we talked about in earlier training videos. Let me hit undo. Of course, you also have your spacing in between the columns. You can click and drag and make it greater. I'm going to go ahead and hit undo. And in fact, let me get rid of that line. Columns, more columns. You can turn off the video now because you probably know how to uncheck it, but since you're watching, let's just go ahead and click Okie dokie, and I feel better. Assuming you know how to create text boxes, if not, you want to watch my training video on it, I'm going to show you how you can link 2 or more text boxes together. Why would you want to do that? If you read a newsletter, sometimes they have a main story here and then a text box off to the right-hand side that contains another article, that if you have an interest in it, you can read it over there. And if there's more text that can fit into the box on this page, you can have it overflow into another text box on the next page. But if we don't link them together, then I have to copy the text and paste it so it fits exactly in the first text box, and then go to the second page in the continuation of the text box and copy the rest of the article and try to paste it in there. But if you link the text boxes, then just take all the text and paste it into the first text box, and you're done. because if there's any left over, it'll automatically spill over into the second, third, fourth, as many text boxes that you have linked to continue the article. So first off, we need some text to put in the text box, and I got it right here. Let me click on the button to open up the window there. It's already selected, so I can just go ahead and right-click on it to copy it, or Control-C for the shortcut keys, and then click on the button to go back to the main document. Click inside the text box, and Control-V as in Victor to paste it, and it's all in there. Of course, there's more than what we can see, but the text box isn't that big, so if I hover over the bottom middle resizing handle till I can see arrows pointing up and down, you can see when I click and drag it, well, stretches open, and I want it just so. And so let me click off, and what we need to do is we need to have the rest of the contents within the text box, when it can't squeeze into there, to go over into the second text box, and if it can't squeeze into that, how about to the third and final text box. Let's scroll back up to the top, and to create that link, go ahead and click inside the text box to bring up its related contextual format tab, to go to the text group, and to create the link. And it says, let your text flow from one text box to another. Wow, let's do it. Click on it, and when you move your mouse down, you can see you got a bucket of letters or words. And so we want to go down by scrolling, or you can come over here and click on the scroll bar and go down. And if you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, you can just go ahead and hit the escape key, and then you're back to, well, your I-beam. So we have to scroll back up here, make sure our cursor's in there, click on Create Link again, and then go ahead and scroll back down. And then when I move my mouse, the bucket, over the text box, it'll automatically say, hey, we're ready, by tilting it over, saying, look, this is a box you can go ahead and link to. Click on it, blip, automatically dumped the text from the first text box, all that it couldn't squeeze in it, into that second. And you can see when I click and drag, what's interesting is that it will reveal what's in the second text box and add it up into the bottom of the first box, but let me go ahead and click and drag and push that back. When I go down to the second text box, you see where it says this reducing our exposure, and I come up here and I click down to go this reducing our exposure to God, and I come down here and it's not there. You see how it's linked? If I reveal more text in one, it compensates and pulls it up from the next one because they're linked. And wow, we got more text here. Let's click in the second text box, click on the border, get the resizing handles, click and drag. Okay, see, we got more. So let's go ahead and link this box to the third and final one. So with this one selected, come up here and click on Create Link. We get the bucket. Let's scroll down to the last page, hover over, click, and it dumps. Okay, not much left. And then I can go ahead and resize it to fit exactly. Click on the border, and then click the bottom middle resizing handle. Fit exactly, just that. Sweet. And as you saw, what I do to one text box or do in one, like if I come up here and I start typing and adding some more text, you see how it automatically takes me to the second text box and takes the text, scrolls it, pushes it down to the bottom of the box, and then whatever there gets pushed down to the next and third and final text box. In any case, let's go ahead and hit undo, get rid of that gobbledygook. And you know what might be helpful, we'll learn it in a later training video, is to put a cross-reference here. So when they look at this and like, hey, where's the rest? You can say, continued on page 3. In any case, we'll learn that in a later training video. Now to go ahead and break the links, like if I don't want the second text box to be linked to the third one, then in the second, let's come up here and click on Break Link. And now it pulls everything over into this box because it's broken. Or, well, let me scroll down. You can see it's no longer in that box. Or let me go ahead and hit undo. Another way to do this is to just go ahead. Oh, let me hit undo again. There we go. Scroll back down. Is to go ahead and select the border of the text box, hit the delete key, gets rid of the text box, and it breaks the link. As you can see when I click in here, click on the bottom middle resizing handle, it's all there. And of course, if I delete that text box or I want to break the link to this box, well, right here it says Create Link. I need to go to the previous box that links down to the second box and say Break it. And then when I scroll down to the second text box, nothing's there because it's all crammed in this teeny tiny little text box. Click and drag and it's all there. If you want to convert your document into an invoice, calendar, greeting card, certificate, agenda, etc., Word has some templates for you to peruse through. Just come up here, click on the File tab, go backstage down to New. There's the blank document, but here's some others like Certificate of Participation. Ooh, gift tag labels, that's nice. You can scroll down. Now, this is basically your home page for the templates, so if you find a template, like when you're perusing through the suggested searches, well, you can either go ahead and type in a keyword or keywords, or just click on one of these categories like something. Let's click on education. Give it a second. That when you find something in here that you like, let me click and drag and scroll down, see if I like, oh, that's nice, a fall harvest celebration. So if I like that and I want to keep using it or referring to it over and over again, instead of clicking on education, I can go ahead and come down here and click on pin to list. And so when I come back up here and click on home, guess what gets pinned to the home page? It's celebration. Cool. So that way it's always there until I come down below and I click on it to unpin, in which case it gets removed, and because it's not the most recent pin, it gets bumped down, but it's still there. Unless I'm opening up a lot and going through them, it won't roll off, and it definitely won't roll off if I click to pin it back in. And because it's the most recent, it's right close to the top here. Now you can do it that way, or you can come up here and click in the search field and type in Christmas, hit enter, searches thousands of online templates. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. A gift for you. You can see when you hover over it, Christmas gift certificate. Go ahead and click on it. Gives you a little preview and something about it. And if you don't like that, instead of closing out and then selecting the next one, well, when you have this one up, you can just go ahead and hit the right arrow. Automatically advances to the one to the right, and then you click the next and it goes down through all the others that are in that category, Christmas. And if you want to go ahead and create it, let's see, Christmas cards, alrighty. Let's go ahead and click on create. Downloads it, opens it up, there you go. Now it's a template, so just make it your own. As you scroll down, it says Merry Christmas and best wishes. The default here, you can go ahead and say, the very best wishes for the happiest of holidays. And then you can type in your name when you're done, hit the print button, and off it goes. Of course, make sure you got some cardstock, or, well, you can go ahead and print on regular sheets of paper with a color printer, or not with a color printer. I mean, it's your flavor. Go ahead and choose what works best for you. And then when you're done, you can see up here on the title bar, it's got a generic name because it's a copy of the template. So if you want to use this in the future, for others that you want to send this to, you can personalize it and say to the Joneses, the very best, and then go ahead and print that, then update it to the Smiths, and then print that, and then type it to somebody else. In any case, if you want to save it so you don't have to keep recreating this, whatever customizations you make to it, and then just come up here and click on the Save button. It's going to do a save as, asking us where do you want to save it, and what name do you want to give it. We'll save it to the desktop, which it's already there. And then Merry Christmas, sure. Go ahead and click Save, and that's it. Close out, and then we're back in our blank document. Close out of that. Go to the desktop. There it is, Merry Christmas. Double click, open it up. And then we can scroll down to the second page, the very best wishes. In any case, you got it there now. You don't have to go back to File, New, and go through that whole search again, unless, of course, one of two things. It was a recent search, in which case you'll find it right here. But if you do more searches, then this doesn't become as recent, so it gets knocked off unless you pin it, in which case it becomes the most recent right up at the top there. Before we go any further, it should be noted by definition what a template is, and a template is something that serves as a master or pattern from which other similar things can be made. So I've got an invoice here that I'm sending off to Barney Fife, but then after this I've got another client that I want to invoice, like let's say Dot Warner. So instead of recreating this, we can just go ahead and overwrite who it's going to be addressed to and then update the description down below. But better yet, what I can do is I can get rid of all the dynamic fields meaning that all the fields that will always be changing with each new invoice, who we're billing, and then save it as a template. So instead of opening up an old invoice and replacing who we previously invoiced, because we could make mistakes, we could actually leave the name and type in a new address, or have the name changed and keep the same address. If we just go ahead and clear it out, then we know when it's blank and there's nothing there that, well, you got to type somebody in. So there's less confusion when, at least for me, when I get rid of all those dynamic fields and save it as a template. So to do that, of course, let's go ahead and click and drag and delete, and click and drag and delete that. And that looks pretty good. Oh, except for the invoice number, it's not always going to be 100. We can go ahead and delete that. And then to save it as a template, well, come up here, and on the quick access toolbar, I got my save as command. Click on that. And then down below, we're going to change the type from a document to a Word template, .dotx. Go ahead and select it. Automatically takes you right into the My Documents folder, the subfolder Custom Office Templates. And you can go ahead and give your template a name and call it My Spiffy Invoice. Go ahead and click Save, and there you go. Of course, any changes you make here and click Save, it'll update it. And you can see up there on the title bar, the .dotx, the DOT, the extension, is for template. And if you want to learn more about extensions, you can watch my Windows training video on extensions. In any case, all you have to do is go ahead and close out of here, and then open up Microsoft Word. And then when I'm ready to create that new invoice to invoice.warner, I don't have to open up an old template and type over what's there, but just come up here, click on File, go down to New, and it's going to be saved in Personal. So click on that, and there it is, My Spiffy Invoice. Go ahead and click on it. Hey, there we go. And then we can just come down in here and type in who it's to. We'll say .warner, and then type in the rest of the information that's proprietary to this client that we're invoicing. And then when we're done, when you click Save, well, first off, on the title bar, it's a Word document, so it's not going to overwrite the original template, which is nice because when I click Save, it forces me to do a Save As and save it as something else. If I do want to overwrite the original template, well, then just come down here and change the type from Document to Word template.dotx, and it's right there. Just go ahead and select it so it has the same name. Click Save. It won't let me overwrite it right now because I haven't closed out of the session yet, and Word will do that. In fact, most all of Office applications will do that. So you have to close out of everything you have open so it refreshes, and then when you do a Save As, you'll be able to overwrite it. So if you can overwrite it, and you definitely want to update it with some changes that you made, well, maybe not with Dot, but let's pretend we made changes without putting her name in there, like we had a new address. In any case, you can go ahead and just, say it's invoice number 2, and then click Save. Now remember, it's in the Customization Templates folder, and you can find that, well, if I right-click on the Start button and open up Windows Explorer, it's in the Libraries. So in the Libraries, you've got Documents, double-click on that. In the Documents folder, you've got Custom Office Templates, double-click, and there you go. The second one that we saved in the original one. So if you want to do it this way, you can go ahead and delete that, and then update that with a right-click, go down to Rename, and then in that box, delete 2, and then hit Enter, and it will update it. But if I do that now and hit Enter, it says, we already have something that contains the same name, so we can't do that right now. We'll click Cancel. And this is where you can go as well to delete your templates, reorganize it as it were, rename them. Let's go ahead and close out. So that's our own custom templates. Let me go ahead and close out of them. Well, let's go with the blank document here, because you can update the blank template. When you go backstage, click on File, go down to New. You want to create a new blank document. Let's hit back. Well, the new blank document is going to have its own default font, paragraph, and page layout. So if you click on the expandable dialog box button for the font group, you see down below where it says Set as Default. So the default font is Body, which is a theme font, and we talked about themes in another training video. But if you want something else, that every time you create a new blank document, like Times New Roman, regular, size 12. You can see a preview of it down below. Go ahead and set it, click on Set as Default, and it says, do you want it for this document only or all documents based on the, well, normal or global template? So you could keep it to this document only, but in any case, let's go ahead and click Cancel. That's for your fonts. How about your paragraphs? Click on the Expandable Dialog Box button. You can go ahead and make your changes here, set it, and then say you want to set that as the default as well. For this document or all documents, click Cancel, Cancel, and then finally the Layout tab, which if we go to the Page Setup group and click on the Expandable Dialog Box button, you also have a set default there as well. So when it comes to your margins, if your default isn't 1 inch on all 4 sides, or it is, but you want to change it, then go ahead and make your changes and you get the preview window down below. And then you can set that as your default. Now this one says you want to change the default settings for the page setup, and it updates the global template. So you don't get the option of just this document. It's going to go for all new documents. So we'll say no. So that way, when you create a new document, you've got it tweaked for your margins, your fonts, and well, there's the paragraph group. It's also there on the Layout tab, your paragraphs. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.